Hi everybody, what's up? Cass here and co-host Angus in the house. And today we are going to be talking about mouse breeding, but more specifically the realistic aspect of mouse breeding, the part that not everybody talks about. So we are going to be talking about that today, and he's trying to talk with me, which is insanely cute. Yeah. Are you also talking? Are you joining the conversation? Yeah. So, without further ado, we are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to mouse breeding, because there's quite a bit in every aspect. It's not always just adorable little baby mice. There are some downsides, and there's also some sad times as well. So, let's get into that. So obviously, first things first, we're going to talk about the good, and that is that baby mice are just absolutely adorable, and mice make incredible pets. But that's kind of where that stops, because while they're easy pets, they're not pets that can just live in those teeny tiny little critter keeper kind of enclosures. They do need some sort of enrichment. They do need care. Even in a breeding scenario, they still do need quite a bit of care. So that's kind of where the good stops, besides all the perks of them being amazing pets, because really they are. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We are talking about the breeding aspect of mice, and realistically, besides the friendliness of when you go in to handle them, to clean them, to deal with the babies, whatever, it doesn't really matter all too much unless you're selling them specifically as pets, which I do, but not as often. But that's just kind of a rule that I have with my line in general. I want my mice to be friendly. I want them to be well behaved. And I want them to not be jumpy, bitey, or flighty, or anything like that. Why would you want that in a potential pet? Because any of my mice, for the most part, can be pets. But let's talk about what we do with the ones that can't be pets. So now we are on the bad and the ugly, and that is what we do with the mice that can't be sold as pets, or that maybe don't have favorable temperaments to be reintroduced into our lines. And that's where, trigger warning, snakes come into play. I have pet snakes, and I started breeding rodents specifically for my pet snakes back in the day. That's how I got into rodent breeding and their genetics. I pretty much just started breeding for feeders. So, me being me, of course I'm gonna have snakes, and snakes gotta eat. So, of course, if I happen to just get bit, there's a little guy called Midas over there who's more than willing to eat at any point. But what if my snakes just ate? And that's a valid question. Now, this may or may not be something that you're comfortable with, but it is part of rodent breeding and just breeding in general. And that is dwindling your population. I'm saying that very lightly. In reality, I mean culling them down. And that can be done through various methods depending on what rodent you're breeding, how old they are, and what you feel comfortable with. The most humane and widely recommended method is going to be a CO2 chamber or a gas chamber, which is really rough to say. Trust me, I know. But they typically knock out pretty quickly when they go into that little chamber, and it's very, very humane, painless, and quick. That's honestly the best way to do it. I'm not going to talk about the other ways because that is the way that is certified by the Board of Veterinarians to be humane and painless. So that's what we're going to talk about here. With that being said, what do you do with the rodents that you euthanize and then you don't have enough snakes to feed? That's where the freezer comes into play. Just like any sort of meat, protein, anything really, they can be frozen, and that can extend their life drastically when it comes to overall quality for the food of your animals, the diet of your animals, and the welfare of your animals. I personally probably wouldn't keep a rodent in my freezer longer than 6 months. That's just me. But I also go through rodents pretty quickly, so none of my rodents have ever stayed in my freezer longer than, honestly, probably 2 months. So there's that. I'm not going to show any of that. It's not humane, but what I will show is how adorable and sweet and amazing my little mice are, because I do genuinely love my mice with my whole heart. I love their genetics. I love their temperaments. I love just how cute and sweet and tiny they are. I love their behaviors and their interactions. They're very, very intelligent animals. And that's something you do need to think about. Everything here needs to be humane when it comes to breeding rodents as food. Point blank. It needs to be humane. You need to keep them clean. You need to keep them hydrated. You need to keep them fed. That's just the basics. But it shouldn't just be about breeding. It should also be about the welfare of the animals, and that is something that I like to preach. Obviously, I have quite a few animals, but it's all about their welfare. You could have a warehouse and not be able to take care of them, and they could all be in crap condition, or you can be in a home setting, breeding in a home setting, and it could be immaculate. So it's really dependent on your care and you as a person and a keeper. But I recommend you don't start this unless you really know what you're getting into and you're willing to take on that kind of task, because it grows very, very quickly. I'm already at the point where I've asked my husband and my best friend to build me a rack. And unfortunately, it's the middle of winter, but it's coming soon, I promise. But once that rack comes into play, oh my god, it's going to explode so much more. I'm already on 3 separate colonies, guys. 3 separate colonies. It grows very, very quickly. But, without further ado, let's start picking out some of the mice that I have to dispatch today. Again, I'm not going to show the dispatching process. That's not humane. It's not fair. But what I will show is how cute these little mice are beforehand. Honestly, it's just been a lot of males recently, and there's not a whole lot of desire for males in the pet hobby. If you're in the New England area and you want mice, hit me up. I'm just saying. Hit me up on TikTok. But with that being said, snakes got to eat, like I said, and I do have snakes that do have to eat every single week. So I do have a job to do, and that is a job that we are going to do right now. But since I'm about to handle mice, we gotta say goodbye to Mr. Angus. Gotta say goodbye to Mr. Angus. Oh, I know. You gotta go bye-bye. You gotta go back in your house so I can deal with mice. I know. I know. Bye, everybody. Goodbye. Ow. Rude. Rude? You are so rude. Yeah, you're rude. You're rude. You're rude. Okay, so this is Lilac and Jonesy's bin. This is the first colony I'm going to pull from just because I've realized there's a lot of males in here. For example, come here. That's a boy, if you look at his bum. So he's going to be one of the ones that gets turned into food. She's a girl. Come here. That's a boy. And then I'm just tossing them into a bucket. That's a girl. And then that's a girl. Cool. This is the second colony I'm going to be pulling from. And that's just because, like I said, too many boys. Too many boys is a problem that I am having. There they are. Girl. Boy. Girl. Boy. Definitely a boy. Where's that last one? Is it this one? I mean, honestly, I don't like how squeaky you are. And then just double check you. You're a girl. And you're a boy, but you're from a different colony. So I think that that works. Cool. Now these guys are all set. So these are the cutie pies I have picked from the colonies. Again, they're all males for the most part. Or they just don't have a good temperament. And I don't deem them safe to adopt out. I don't like adopting out mice that are bitey, flighty, jumpy, anything like that, because that risks human injury and infection. And I don't mess with that, to be honest with you. As someone who's really into like macrobiology and stuff like that, I just think that that's not very ethical. And when breeding, you want to be as ethical as possible. So these are the cutie pies that are going to be dispatched. So again, not going to show that, not showing that at all, but just wanted to kind of show how I pick, I guess is a good way to put it. So again, males or crappy temperaments, and when it comes to males, it's only when I need to build up my stock of snake food, or when they have poor temperament. So there's that, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this handled, and yeah. Okay, so they're all dispatched, and trying to use very light terms for this. You want to wait until you can ensure that they are no longer viable until you package them up or whatever you're going to do with them. Now, when I go to package them up for my snakes to feed later, just a normal old freezer Ziploc is totally fine. But like I said, I want to really preface and really emphasize the point of make sure that they are fully dispatched before any sort of freezing or anything like that. Just, again, ethical and humane reasons. It's not fair to put them in the freezer while they're still croaking. But if you do your job right and you follow protocols, should be just about instant. So I just want to go ahead and put that little disclaimer right there. And with that being said, I'm not going to show anymore. It's not right to show that on YouTube, in my opinion, or really on TV, period, unless it's like a documentary. And even then, I just going to reserve that for the people who actively do it. I'll go ahead and go into depth about a chamber at a later date. But yeah, with that being said, thank you for watching. If you're watching this video, it's because you are interested in both sides, and I appreciate you sticking through with it. And I hope that this brought you some education, and I hope you enjoyed the video a little bit. I know it's a little bit more of a downer, but it is, again, part of breeding. It's just part of it. So, without further ado, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, week, month, wherever you are in the world, and I hope that everything is nice and positive in your life at the moment. It's a very hard world, and we all just need to share a little bit of kindness with each other. And last but not least, do right by your animals, guys. Have a good one. Bye now.